I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And here we are, we're winding down to the very end. This will be the final video before next week, Friday, in which I give my final Oscar predictions. That's going to be an incredible video. That should come out on the Friday. At least that's what I'm planning on happening. Which will be a whole full 1 hour, probably long video breaking down all the 24 categories with all the guilds and everything going into the Oscar night and all the precursors and what I think the Oscars are eventually going to do themselves. But if you're new to the series, what I do every single week, at least after the Oscar nominations have been announced, is I predict what I think is going to win for the Oscars. Before the nominations, I predict what I think is going to get nominated. We've had a long sort of 5-month journey at this point, almost at least, of just predicting and calculating the races and seeing the changes and flows of the race. I've had such a great time. But before we go to that big category, I want to do a couple things. Quickly at the top of the show, I'm going to talk about some of my telecast thoughts of the Oscars cutting those 4 categories. I'm also going to be breaking down a lot of the below the line categories. So not necessarily tech categories, because I'm also going to be doing the design categories as well, just so I can get a general overview, so that the 24 sort of big video isn't so long, but do note that there's a lot of guilds that haven't come out, so we don't know for sure, but I'm going based on BAFTAs and sort of personal thoughts and where I think the Oscars are going to go this year, and sort of the trends and how my predictions kind of flow into one. But starting off with the Oscars telecast thoughts, I guess you would say, I think a lot of people have sort of said it concisely, so I don't want to go on for too long. There's so many actors, directors, cinematographers that have been coming out and saying how sort of disappointing this is and upset they are by it, and I agree in a lot of ways. I think that this was not a good decision. I'm trying to look at it both ways. As a fan, I want all 24 categories to be presented. I like them all. But then also, from the business side of the view, I don't get it either, which is kind of strange as well, because, from a business point of view, I'm thinking, okay, you need to nominate things, right? Okay, well, you have no host, so that's going to cut on time, but maybe you want to, future-proof it, we'll say. So you're going to take away some categories from being shown on TV. If you don't know, they're getting away 4 categories. Best live action short, best makeup and hairstyling, but then the big 2 ones that people are getting upset about is best cinematography and best editing. They will not be rewarded and sort of celebrated live on TV. They'll be shown during commercial break. So the thought is that, even from a business perspective, is okay, maybe you get rid of 3 shorts and makeup and hairstyling, or one of the sounds. Categories that people don't have a full grasp under. But also, no offense to the shorts, I appreciate the shorts, but, not as many people see them, so then not as many people will be tuned in, so you're not going to show them. I know they're already getting rid of 1, but maybe not. Maybe why not the other 2? It's kind of confusing in that way. Especially when you're getting rid of big categories like cinematography and editing. You can't have a movie without cinematography and editing. It's impossible. I think cinematography is arguably not even below the line. I could consider above the line. I would put the cinematographers' names on the ballots. That's how sort of important I see that. And editing is so crucial. So many directors, they always credit it as the crucial part of the stage. I just think that overall, as a fan of the Oscars, I don't necessarily treat what they say with high regard as some certain people. I have my own opinions, as you see with the Connors Award show, but I still am a fan of it. I love the campaigning, I love the analysis. I think it's a great sort of fun time. I love doing this. But in that same sentence, I understand the cultural impact that the Oscars have. This is an award show that people tune in every single year to see what they consider the best movies and see what sort of the industry is about. And when you don't have these certain key roles like cinematography, like best editing, I think it actually hurts the industry in a lot of ways. And for example, the Oscars have a cultural effect, which is why I'm disappointed in this decision and sort of shunning these categories, and which is why I see it. Moonlight, it wouldn't have. There's a lot of people who wouldn't have seen Moonlight if it didn't win Best Picture. And it's a fantastic movie. It does some great things. And really just everything they've been putting out. You think of, the Kevin Hart drama, the Best Popular Picture, and now this. Everything they've been saying, the Academy this year has been put under a bad light. It hurts as a fan of the Oscars, and I hope next year they can right the ship. But right now, they're, making every wrong decision, pretty much. And it's disappointing as an Oscar fan, truthfully. Let's go over into the first category, Best Cinematography. This is a category that could actually look deceiving. but still I think I'm going to go with the obvious choice, which is Roma. This is because in all these below the line categories that I'm going to be talking about, there's going to be no name on the ballot. Why this would hurt Roma is because it's by the director, Alfonso Cuarón, who, in certain guilds, in a lot of ways, they want to, how would you, sort of, if they don't want to see their job being taken away, they don't want to see directors start shooting their own movies and editing their own movies and scoring their own movies, right? They want to see how those jobs still be preserved, and they want to, in a lot of ways, have a bias towards, pure cinematographers, like, Alfonso Cuarón's, previous collaborator, Emmanuel Lubezki, Chivo, who he still works on, and still, they say his imprint has been all over this film, and he's actually done a lot of Q&As with Alfonso for the cinematography. But I think at the end of the day, it just has a beautiful long takes, great black and white photography. It's distinct, it's different. People like the movie. It's most overtly sort of making attention to itself cinematography, and because of its long takes and because of its sort of deep focus in a lot of situations, and then very well done and very beautiful. But I think the surprise would be maybe with Cold War. This was done by Lucas Zal, just because I'm worried about the Cold War sort of interest. I mean, it got a Best Director nomination. Will that sort of propel it to get some sort of win somewhere? I think it's either going to be in Best Cinematography or in Best Foreign Film, which would be interesting too. But I think cinematography, the obvious choice is Roma, just because, Alfonso Cuarón did get in at the American Society of Cinematographers, who generally have a bias against directors who shoot their own movies. He got in there. The movie's very well shot. He's been doing Q&As with his previous collaborator, cinematographer, who's won 3 Oscars before. So in a lot of ways, they're giving it to him in a lot of ways. But watch out for Lucas Zal for Cold War. Next, okay, so Best Editing. This is a year that's actually going to be really confusing because the precursors have actually split. So the BAFTAs recently just went with Vice as for Best Editing, but at the Ace Eddie Awards, with the Ace means the American Cinema Editors, the Editing Guild, and Eddies are their award show, and they went with for Best Comedy Editing. They went with The Favorite, and Best Dramatic Editing, they went with Bohemian Rhapsody. So in a year that's sort of split, I have some numbers that tell us maybe where we're heading. So last year, BAFTA went with Baby Driver, and Ace Eddie went to I, Tonya and Dunkirk. The winner, Dunkirk. In 2017, the BAFTA went to Hacksaw Ridge, and Ace Eddie went to Arrival and La La Land. The winner, Hacksaw Ridge. In 2014, BAFTA went with Whiplash, and Ace Eddie went to Boyhood and the Grand Budapest Hotel. The winner, Whiplash. In 2013, BAFTA was Rush, and Ace Eddie winner went for American Hustle, and one more that I forgot to write down. But then the winner was Gravity, which didn't win any of them. So in a lot of ways, it's sort of hard to predict. The Editing Guild recently has been splitting in a lot of different ways. The important thing is that it's got to be a Best Picture nominee, which makes sense, of course. So it's probably, in my opinion, either going to be Bohemian Rhapsody or Vice. It could be something like The Favorite. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think if The Favorite didn't win at BAFTAs, that's going to be its a sign of strength. So it's going to be hard in a confusing year like this. I may just go with Adam McKay's movie Vice, because Adam McKay got in for Best Director and has a lot of support from the acting branch. And I don't know where they're going to sort of reward that film. They're probably going to give makeup and hairstyling, probably. But then if they want to reward it even more, they may go with, Best Editing. Plus it has sort of that unique, unusual narrative structure. It has this boost of support from BAFTA, in which Whiplash and Hacksaw Ridge sort of gave it a bit of a boost there. So it has a lot going for it in that category. So for Vice, I think it's probably going to be for editing, but it's a very sort of confusing category. We'll see. Best Sound Mixing. This is an interesting category. Actually, both the categories are going to be interesting. My pick as of right now is going to go with Bohemian Rhapsody, just because traditionally they have gone with musicals, but still that's not been true of recent, because you have to watch out. The last 2 years they've actually went with war films in Dunkirk and Hacksaw Ridge. Usually the war films are sound editing and the musicals are sound mixing, especially with La La Land losing a sound mixing category. That was very surprising. So maybe these assumptions are not going to happen. Plus, Bohemian Rhapsody is not a musical, but it's a music-based film. I know the music-based film is A Star Is Born, which is also in the same category. The reason why I think A Star Is Born actually won't get it is because it wasn't nominated for Best Sound Editing. Now, it did win Best Original Music, I think, at or just best music at the BAFTAs. So that, I think, sort of factors in song and score and kind of in sort of the music of the film, which is going to be kind of confusing for score. That being said, Bohemian Rhapsody won best sound at the BAFTA. So I think actually of the musical-based films that got nominated, the one that's probably more well-liked is Bohemian Rhapsody. So I think Bohemian Rhapsody is going to win best sound editing, mixing, excuse me. But what I do think is going to split is best sound editing. Now, First Man could still win best sound mixing. I do want to mention that because it is a sound-based sort of space operatic film and could win both categories. But in a year, most years, for example, Dunkirk, I knew sound was going to go to both of them because they won all the precursors. Similar to Mad Max Fury Road, both of those sounds are going to go to them. This year, there's not an obvious one. I don't think First Man, because it's not a Best Picture nominee the way Dunkirk was. I don't think these two are going to stay the same. I think they're actually going to split. So best sound editing, I'm going to go with A Quiet Place, which is kind of my surprise pick. I think this one has a lot of support from the guilds with Emily Blunt's win from SAG. The disappointing thing is that I wasn't nominated for best sound mixing. So the last time that this actually happened was Zero Dark 30 and Skyfall tied for best sound editing, and Zero Dark 30 was not nominated for best sound mixing. Then the time before that was Letters for Iwo Jima, in which it won for best sound editing without a best sound mixing nomination. However, it's rare. It's actually more common for the other way to go around, to win for best sound mixing and not get nominated for best sound editing. So you see something like First Man, which I may go with at the end of the day. I'm going to rely on the guilds for sure, but I may go with First Man because it gets the guilds win, and it also got nominated for best sound editing and best sound mixing. And that could be a scenario, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went that route. But personally, right now, I'm going to go with A Quiet Place. I think that could be the surprise win because it's so much to do with sound, and the sound effects are so prevalent. It did very well with the guilds in terms of getting Foley and all these things. The sound editing guild is not as good as the sound mixing guild because there's so many different awards. But in terms of the amount of awards that it does sort of give out, that's maybe who I'm going to give it to. But who knows? Maybe Bohemian Rhapsody wins this one too, and it sort of gives a big sweep there. It's definitely possible. I think out of all the films, maybe First Man is the loudest film. But in terms of Best Picture nominees, you're going to go with Bohemian Rhapsody and Black Panther, which in a lot of ways, guys, is actually the movies that do win. Arrival will surprise with the best sound editing win, for example. Hacksaw Ridge, these movies I'm talking about, Dunkirk, Mad Max Fury Road, they're all nominated for Best Picture. So having the Best Picture definitely helps you. So I wouldn't even be surprised if Black Panther, an action movie, wins for best sound editing. That could definitely happen for sure. Okay, let's move into the next category. Best score. This is an interesting one as well because I think a lot of people are going to go with sort of the front runner right now, which is If Beale Street Could Talk. But I have an interesting stat that I did some research. While I always do research for all these categories, by the way, but while I was doing research for these movies, I found an interesting stat. I found out that out of the last 10 years, 9 out of the last 10 nominations went to Best Picture nominees, and the one time it didn't went to Ennio Morricone for The Hateful Eight, and that's because it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. If you don't know Ennio Morricone did the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, a bunch of spaghetti westerns, Cinema Paradiso, The Thing. I mean, incredible, prolific composer who has never won before, so they gave it to him that year. But the ones that do win, I mean, last year The Shape of Water, La La Land, the year before that, if you think about these movies that win, they're nominated for Best Picture. So why are we going for If Beale Street Could Talk for Nicholas Patel? Yes, a beautiful score, yes, I love it, but only nominated, 3 times to get 3 nominations. And if Regina King's going to win for that movie, it's probably not going to, a non-Best Picture to win 2 that are not sort of tech categories, that are sort of semi-big. That would be surprising. The only reason why I think we're going for If Beale Street is because it's been nominated everywhere, but hasn't won everything. The Globes went with First Man. Best Music at the BAFTAs went to A Star Is Born. So right now I'm actually going to go with Black Panther. It's between, in my opinion, probably going to be Black Panther or Black Klansman. Black Panther, though, I'm going to give the edge because of spreading the wealth. I think they like Black Klansman, but it's going to get that big award of the night for adapted screenplay. And I also think Black Panther is maybe more of an overtly musical film, with the Best Song nomination as well. Ludwig Göransson is an up-and-coming great sort of composer. And, the sort of thing that's holding Black Panther back is it wasn't nominated at the BAFTAs, where, say, Black Klansman was. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with the film that I think is going to spread the wealth, and Black Panther may not win Best Costumes or Best Production Design. Visual effects is not nominated. It may not even win Best Sound Editing. But what it could do is win Best Score, and that could be its sort of reward of the night. That being said, I actually did some research as well, and the last time a film that won Best Score that was not nominated at the BAFTAs was The Social Network. So it's not impossible. Black Panther still get it here. It definitely had more support at the Oscars than it did at the BAFTAs, because it got completely almost shut out at the BAFTAs. However, it still won visual effects, so they still won reward in certain ways, and I think this year actually is going to be Black Panther for Best Score. Best makeup and hairstyling. Actually, before that, I forgot to put the slide in, so just, this is the best visual effects section, I believe, right? Because, yeah, okay. Best visual effects. This is a category I've talked about before, so I'll keep it brief. In a sense, I'm going to go with first band, because in a lot of years that have a bunch of nominees that have no Best Picture nominees. Sort of the rule of thumb is always go for the one that's the Best Picture nominee. So if Black Panther was in, I would have voted for that. But the next sort of rule of thumb is vote for the one that's the most Best Picture like. We see in years of Blade Runner 2049, in which that wins. It didn't get nominated for Best Picture, but got 5 nominations. It also won for Best Cinematography. And Interstellar is another great example. Didn't get nominated for Best Picture, but got nominated for a bunch of tech categories and won Best Visual Effects. It was the most Best Picture like in all of these visual effects categories. And in this category, it's probably going to be First Man. It has the most nominations out of any other of the other nominees. And with my surprise 100-to-1 pick that I got right for Christopher Robin in this category, I think they're going to go with more of the photorealistic visual effects and say a complete sort of Marvel CGI fest that is Avengers Infinity War. However, a lot of people are predicting Avengers Infinity War just because of its cultural impact and because they want to finally reward a Marvel film. This feels like a sort of culmination in a lot of ways. That being said, I still think they're going to go with First Man because of how sort of traditional and sort of more Best Picture like it is. At least that's the way the Oscars have been sort of flowing as of recent. I'm going to Best Makeup. This one will be short too. This should go to Vice. I was surprised at the BAFTAs that Vice didn't win. Actually went to The Favorite. But The Favorite, thankfully, is not nominated at the Oscars. There's only 3 nominations. I'm going to wait to see what the guilds do. That's going to be sort of an important, crucial fact. But I think they'll probably go to Vice. I think that it's been recently so much of a prosthetics kind of an Oscars, Darkest Hour winning. So sort of not necessarily makeup and hair, it has to do with the prosthetics. But if say something like Mary Queen of Scots wins at the Guild, I may switch to that, because with the Mary Queen of Scots and The Favorite, they're definitely going to go with the makeup and hairstyling that was more, period piece-esque instead of more sort of prosthetic American stuff that they've been doing in Vice. But still, I think Vice, it helps that the BAFTA winner Favorite's not nominated, so probably going to go with Vice here because of sort of the great, amazing prosthetic work that's going on. And then the final categories here, I just combined Best Production Design and Best Costume Design because I have the same pick, which is The Favorite. Now, this category is really interesting because I think this can totally make or break your predictions. I think they're going to be the same. I did some research, and in the last 10 years, there has been 6 splits in which there are 2 different ones, and 4 of them which they are the same. The sames have been actually pretty recently. I think there was like a streak of them where it was like 4 in 6 years in a row or something like that, and then it went split. But I'm going with the same just because that's sort of how they've been telling me. In terms of the art, we don't have the Costume Designers Guild yet. That's coming up. That's tomorrow. But the Art Directors Guild did say something, and unfortunately, they have different categories. So Black Panther won for Best Sci-Fi Fantasy, The Favorite won for Best Period Piece. I just think that The Favorite has more support than the Black Panther. It got a Best Director nomination. It did so well at the BAFTAs. It has support from all these different types of awards. It's a film that you either love or hate, which, if you really love, will help you in these sort of below-the-line categories. I think the costume design, for sure, if we're singling that out, I think it's sort of very traditional for the Oscars to go with sort of this big, poofy period piece kind of a movie. However, watch out for Black Panther. Why? Because their costume designer is done by Ruth E. Carter, who is an amazing sort of costume designer who's never won an Oscar before, versus Sandy Powell, who's doing The Favorite, who has. And she's actually getting a Career Lifetime Achievement Award at the Costume Designers Guild. So I wouldn't be surprised if they want to sort of reward her and give her an Oscar for Best Costume Design. But Best Production Design for Black Panther to win would be a little more surprising to me. Yes, it's been fitting the mold of the Fantastic Beasts and whatnot, but I think there's so much CGI in that movie that could really hurt it, versus The Favorite, which has all these sort of indoor places and sort of the castle, not the castle, or the estate, we'll call it. It's such a huge sort of character in its own that I think the production design will sort of go with The Favorite, but I also think costume design will go with The Favorite because of sort of traditionality. I'd be surprised if they split. In my opinion, if Black Panther wins one, it's going to win the other, and if The Favorite wins one, it's going to win the other. They're going to be televised though, so we can check those out. So this could be a make or break category for you guys. I'm going to go with The Favorite. That's my pick as of right now. That's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for next week's video. So next Friday is going to be the final video. That's going to be so much fun. And then we're going to, give my thoughts on the Oscars. And then I have a big announcement in terms of how we're going to extend the season. I normally do these film analysis things, but actually have a new series that's going to tie back to the Oscars, which should be a lot of fun for you Oscar guys. I know some of you guys just drop off, but stay tuned for after the Oscars because I have some unique stuff, unique Oscar videos I think you guys would really enjoy, and I'm hoping you would enjoy. That's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and until next time, stay tuned.